Hello, I am Maya Negli, and I'm going to be presenting on the differences between American and Italian business culture. And I just wanted to say hello to everybody that is in Lumsa University at Rome. It's nice to meet you guys. So, to start off, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me. So, I'm currently a freshman at the University of Arkansas, and I'm also a business administration major. And I love really everything about retail. I currently work at a broker, so I represent small brands to big corporations like Walmart, Sam's, and Costco. And it's been really fun for me to get experience. And now we are going to move on to talk about the differences between Italian and American business culture. So to begin, just the cultural dimensions differences. So first off, we're going to start with individualism versus collectivism. So Americans are highly individualistic. Success is often attributed to personal achievement, and employees are encouraged to take initiative and assert their ideas. So very cutthroat and very individualistic. Italian culture is a little bit more collectivist, which has more of a focus on family and group relationships. Business decisions often consider the impact on the group and maintaining harmony. So often it isn't as cutthroat or vicious as American culture. The next one we're going to talk about is power distance. So basically, Americans have low power distance, which means hierarchies exist, but there's a strong belief in equality and open communication. Employees may feel comfortable challenging authority because they don't hold them in such a high regard as Italians do. So they have a little bit higher power distance. Hierarchies are respected, and decisions often come from the top. It's important to show deference to seniority. The third one is going to be uncertainty avoidance. So Americans generally have lower uncertainty avoidance, and they're more accepting of risk and change, favoring innovation and flexibility. So we'll often take risks and really just try to be different. And there's a lot of innovation and flexibility, such as like in Tesla, the first EVs, they really put themselves out there and it was a really big risk, but in the end, it worked out for a change. Now, in Italy, there's higher uncertainty avoidance. So there's a preference for structure, rules, and predictability, which can often lead to a more cautious approach to change, which can also prevent innovation and new thinking just because they're more avoidance of uncertainty and risk. Now is masculinity versus femininity. Both American and Italian culture is very masculine. In the United States, there's a lot of emphasis on competition, achievement, and success, and business practices often reflect a focus on results and performance. In Italy, they also lean towards masculinity, but with a stronger emphasis on quality of life and relationships, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. And also, while competition exists, there's a notable appreciation for work-life balance. Now, long-term versus short-term orientation. So the US is a lot more short-term oriented with a focus on quick results and immediate returns on investment. This can drive fast-paced decision making, and oftentimes it gets results very quickly, but they might not be as quality results as if you took a longer time, such as how Italian culture is like. It's more long-term oriented, valuing relationships and continuity, and decisions may reflect a deeper consideration of long-term impacts, which in the end probably works out for the better. But with American culture, we really just want quick results. It doesn't really matter how we get to that point. And so, for example, at Nike, instead of the usual, you've probably heard you want to be 80% sure on what you're saying and 20% unsure, Nike says 60% sure and 40% unsure. And so it's very different between the two cultures. Now, communication styles. So, American is very direct. Where a lot of clarity and straightforwardness are appreciated, and there's often a focus on getting to the point quickly. So no time to just kind of sit around and work around the area of interest. You just get straight to the point. Now, Italian culture is a little bit more indirect and nuanced. There's a lot of context, there's a lot of nonverbal cues, and relationships play a significant role in conveying messages. So it's a little bit more difficult to understand, whereas American is very direct and straight to the point. Now, for time orientation, Americans have strict time management, so time is often viewed as a resource to be managed efficiently. Punctuality is important and deadlines are typically very, very strict. So like if I got into one of my meetings at my job late, I'd probably be looked at pretty weirdly, and it's happened before where everyone just kind of sits and stares at you and judges you. Whereas in Italy, it's a more relaxed approach to time. While deadlines are important, there's often a greater emphasis on relationships and the quality of interactions. So this sometimes leads to more fluid timelines, and it's all just a little bit more laid back. Now, understanding these cultural dimensions is crucial for businesses operating in or with the US and Italy. So this is very important to know between cultures, because if someone from America came to Italy and was expecting very direct communication, they'd be kind of confused by the more nuanced, less direct communication styles. Now, for the next one, we are going to be moving on to the contrasts in business culture. So, the first one is decision making. The decision-making process for Americans tends to be quick and data-driven. There's a focus on efficiency, and decisions are often made at various levels within organizations, allowing for agility. Individuals may be encouraged to take initiative and voice their opinions, fostering a culture of innovation. While in Italy, decision-making is typically more collaborative and consensus-oriented. Relationships and interpersonal dynamics play a significant role, which can lead to a more deliberate process. Now, while this approach values input from various stakeholders, it can result in lower decision-making due to the emphasis on building consensus. So in America, we like to get to this decision very quickly, whereas in Italy, you just want everyone to agree on what is about to happen. So it's a little bit more collaborative, and in the end, the decision often favors more people than it would in the US. Now, work-life balance is going to be very different between America and Italy. So in America, the work culture often leans toward longer hours and a strong emphasis on productivity and achievement. Many Americans embrace the hustle mentality, prioritizing work over personal time. While there is a growing awareness of the importance of work-life balance, it can still be challenging for many to disconnect from work. Now, in Italy, work-life balance is generally more respected. So there's a strong emphasis on family and leisure. Italians often take long lunch breaks and prioritize vacations, and there's a cultural expectation to disconnect from work after hours. This approach fosters a more holistic view of life, integrating work with personal time. So overall, in the US, a lot of it is, again, very individualistic. You're trying to hustle, get that money, and you prioritize work over personal time. While in Italy, a lot of work and personal time is ingrained within each other. Another difference between America and Italy is paid time off. So like in American countries, there's not really that much. In the US, in the US, there's not really a focus on paid time off. A lot of companies don't assure that. A few do, but it's not required by the government. While in Italy, it is required by the government to provide at least 4 weeks of paid time off. Now, the next one is negotiation style. So in America, negotiations are typically straightforward and transactional. There's a focus on reaching a win-win outcome efficiently, often backed by data and clear objectives. Contracts and formal agreements are emphasized, and there's a tendency to address issues directly. While negotiations in Italy are more relationship-oriented and can involve more nuance and emotional intelligence. Building trust and rapport is crucial, and negotiations may take longer as parties seek to understand each other's perspectives. Flexibility is common, with discussions often straying from strict agendas to accommodate relationship building, and this overall just leads to it being more relationship-oriented. So for Americans, it's all based on data and just kind of what both parties know, whereas in Italy, it can often be based on the relationship. Now, the fourth one that I've included is business attire. So for Americans, business attire can vary widely depending on the industry and company culture. The company I work in, for example, very laid back. You can show up in sweatpants and a sweatshirt on days you don't have meetings. It doesn't really matter. And sometimes, though, traditional sectors like finance and law favor formal attire, and jobs like mine, like tech and creative industries, embrace a more casual approach. Overall, professionalism is key, but there's often room for individual expression. But in Italy, business attire is generally more formal and stylish. There's a strong emphasis on appearance, and professionals are expected to dress elegantly and polished. This reflects broader cultural values regarding fashion and presentation, making attire an important aspect of business interactions. These aspects just show how the contrasts are between American and Italian business contexts. Now we're going to talk about conflicts based on culture that these different contrasts have created. So the first one is miscommunication. Often between direct versus indirect communication styles, it can just lead to misunderstanding. So Americans can perceive the more nuanced type of decision making and communication to be evasive, while Italians may find Americans overly blunt. The second one is pace of work. Americans might push for quick results, while Italians might prioritize thorough discussions. This can lead to conflicts in project timelines and expectations. The third is trust building. Relationship building is crucial for Italians, but for Americans, it's not as important. This might be reflected in a miscommunication on both sides, and just the Italians feeling as if the Americans have a lack of trust and cooperation. The fourth is team dynamics. So, a preference for hierarchy in American business can clash with the more egalitarian approach of Italians. This might result in tensions over leadership styles and team roles affecting group cohesion. The fifth one is decision-making conflicts. The consensus-driven Italian may approach slow decision-making processes, which could frustrate American partners who really expect very quick resolutions and solutions to the problems. It can also lead to delays in project execution and unmet goals. The sixth is cultural sensitivity. The lack of understanding between each of the cultural values can lead to offense or misinterpretation of behaviors. Again, kind of like the miscommunication, but on a deeper level. Seventh, feedback mechanisms. Americans typically appreciate direct and constructive feedback, while Italians may be more sensitive to criticism. This could end up with the Americans offending the Italians in some way, and we need to make sure that we stay away from this. The eighth is adaptability to change. Americans may be more open to rapid changes and new ideas, while Italians might be more inclined to adhere to established practices. This can create challenges when implementing new strategies or adapting to the shifts in the market. One second, sorry. Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about is suggestions of how to stay away from these conflicts and create more cohesion between Italian culture and American culture. So the question is, in a global economy, how do people from different cultures bridge the gap to build one another up and be successful? One way that collaboration can end up building each other up to succeed together is cultural exchange and learning. Americans can benefit from understanding Italian values, such as family tradition and importance of relationships in business, and also Italians might appreciate the American emphasis on innovation, efficiency, and direct communication. In both ways, this could build up Americans and Italians to both have middle ground, sort of, where they're innovating and there's efficiency, but there's also still value on relationships and tradition. The second is building relationships. Italians often value personal relationships in business, and Americans can enhance their approach by investing time in building rapport and trust. Another way would be effective communication. Both cultures can work on adapting their communication styles to be able to communicate with each other. Americans tend to be more straightforward, while Italians may incorporate more nuance, and understanding these differences can lead to more productive discussions and negotiations. Another way could be celebrating diversity. So recognizing and celebrating cultural differences in the workplace can foster a more inclusive environment. One way to do this would be celebrating Italian holidays or American events that could create a sense of belonging and mutual respect between the two business people. Another way would be to focus on problem-solving approaches. So Americans often focus on quick solutions and efficiency, while Italians may take a more holistic view. By combining these approaches, teams can develop more innovative and effective solutions. And the last one is just leveraging strengths. Americans can bring in data analysis and scalability, while Italians can excel in design and quality craftsmanship. Recognizing and utilizing each other's strengths can only lead to greater success. And then these are my works cited. So, thank you for listening to my presentation.